Samuel Pepys Diary Expanded Diary Entry November 10, 1669. Samuel Pepys' diary is a remarkable window into 17th century life, offering not just a chronological account of events but also personal reflections, emotions, and observations. His wife, Elizabeth, had been a central figure in his life, and her death on November 10, 1669, marked a profound moment of personal loss for him. Samuel Pepys and Elizabeth St. Michel were married for nearly 17 years. They wed on December 1, 1655, and she passed away on November 10, 1669. Their marriage, though marked by periods of tension due to Pepys' infidelities, was significant in his life, and her death left a deep emotional impact on him. Elizabeth Pepys died from complications of kidney stones. She had been suffering from a painful illness for several months, and Samuel Pepys mentioned in his diaries that her condition had worsened over time. Her death, which occurred on November 10, 1669, was likely due to the prolonged effects of this illness. Pepys recorded his deep sorrow at her passing, and her health problems had been a source of worry for him in the months leading up to her death. Expanded Diary Entry November 10, 1669. Up, and to my office, where I sat all the morning, but my thoughts were far from my work. At noon, I returned home to dinner, my mind weighed down by the growing unease regarding my dear wife. She had been ill for some time, but today her condition seemed worse than before. She complained of a pain in her side, and I immediately began to take care of her, though with little hope that my efforts would alleviate her suffering. She was always a dutiful wife, but I had not thought her illness would take such a serious turn. The afternoon passed slowly, with her pain growing worse and worse, and I could see how it drained her strength. She was often a companionable and lively woman, her wit and charm making the moments we shared so much brighter. I remember the way she would hum to herself in the kitchen while preparing our meals, or how we would laugh over a glass of wine. But today, there was nothing but a pall of sickness and the quiet of our home. I tried to comfort her as best I could, though my heart was sinking. Elizabeth had been the anchor of my life, the one person I could always turn to, even when my own behavior had sometimes been less than exemplary. She knew of my infidelities, yet she had forgiven me time and time again. I could not help but reflect on those moments of strife between us, wondering if I had shown her enough love in return for her boundless patience. As the evening wore on, her condition grew increasingly dire, and it became clear that the end was near. Around 11 o'clock at night, I found myself sitting beside her, helpless. I could see the life ebbing away from her, and it felt as though time itself had slowed. She gave up the ghost, slipping away quietly in the night. I felt as if the very world had shifted under my feet. My grief was immense. I had lost the person who, for better or worse, had been by my side for years, and I could not imagine life without her. In the quiet that followed her death, I was left alone with my thoughts and the weight of my sorrow. I went to bed, but sleep was impossible. My mind was full of memories of our life together, both happy and sorrowful. Our early days, when I had been so young and full of ambition, and Elizabeth had been my constant companion, watching over me with tenderness. The many times we had disagreed, the silent treatments, and the reconciliations that followed. All of it now felt so insignificant in the face of this final, irreversible loss. I thought of her gentle smile, the way she would scold me for my bad habits, and yet still care for me with such deep affection. Her love had been a constant in my life, and now that love was gone, leaving behind an emptiness I could not bear to face. Anecdotal notes and remembrances. Elizabeth's influence on Pepys. Elizabeth had always been a strong presence in Samuel's life. She was both his confidant and his critic, someone who could offer both affection and admonishment in equal measure. Despite his many infidelities, Pepys often referred to her as "my dear wife" and was deeply affectionate toward her, even if his actions sometimes contradicted his feelings. Elizabeth's health. Over the years, Elizabeth had suffered from various illnesses. Her death came after a period of recurring health problems, and Pepys had tried in vain to nurse her back to health. In one of his previous diary entries, he had expressed concern over her health, remarking on her weak constitution, which he feared might eventually lead to her demise. The emotional toll Pepys, who had often written about his personal pleasures and transgressions with a sense of detachment, revealed a different side of himself in the wake of Elizabeth's death. His emotional distress was palpable. The loss of his wife not only left him heartbroken but also caused him to reflect on his own shortcomings as a husband. He expressed regret for the moments when he had taken her for granted, and for the pain his actions had caused her. Pepys' sorrow and the immediate aftermath. In the days following Elizabeth's death, Pepys was consumed by grief. His diary entries show that he was unable to concentrate on anything but his loss. He even commented that he could not bring himself to attend to his work at the Navy office, as the weight of his emotions rendered him incapable of focusing. This was a stark contrast to his usual pragmatic demeanor. Legacy of Elizabeth Pepys. Elizabeth's death marked the end of an era in Pepys' life. For the rest of his days, he often mentioned her in his diaries, reminiscing about the times they had shared. While he later remarried, Elizabeth remained a pivotal figure in his memories, and her loss is one of the most poignant moments recorded in his diaries. Through this expanded entry and the accompanying anecdotes, we gain a richer sense of Samuel Pepys' emotional state during this difficult time. His grief, regret, and reflections on his relationship with Elizabeth offer a deep insight into his character and the complexity of their bond. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to stay updated with more content. This content has been adapted from the powerful features of Polyspeaks for You, South Africa's leading accessibility software. Learn more at www.polyspeaksforyou.co.za. We invite you to support this meaningful dyslexic initiative, crafted and developed by an individual who personally understands the challenges of dyslexia.